Ideate Explorer, and you see here this introductory quote, I won't belabor that, but it's all about auditing and understanding your Revit model. So think of Ideate Explorer in some ways as your Revit search engine. It allows you to quickly identify information in the model. So it's showing you all instances of the elements in the Revit project. So the project browser that I'm sure everyone's familiar with in Revit is basically like a library. You can download and you can import or load in component families, let's say, or you build views. So it's showing you things that may be available to you, but not necessarily everything are in that model. But Ideate Explorer is showing you all of the elements. So it's a model browser as opposed to a project browser. So you're going to see how I can quickly, like I said, understand, find things, and be able to reclassify those items. So a lot of our customers are using Ideate Explorer to audit their projects and just making sure that their Revit project is clean and healthy and organized correctly, right? And that's the kind of the last couple points there, you know, maintain quality standards and ensure a quality assurance and quality control. So with that, I'm going to switch to Revit here. I'll make sure that I wait for that. It looks like that's displayed. Excellent. So, right, I am using today Revit 2017. You'll see in a moment, I'm going to show you some versions. We have Ideate Explorer versions that go all the way back to Revit 2012. And of course, the Ideate Explorer version has to match the current or the release of Revit that you're using. But we find that typically most of our customers are on Revit 2015, 16, and 17, you know, the last 3 releases basically. So if you are on Revit 2016 or previous versions, all of our software will be in the Add-ins tab. So you'd select under Add-ins, under the Revit ribbon, and you'd see that our solutions. But in Revit 2017, we moved it to the Ideate Software tab, so we have our own tab here. And so you see Ideate, BIMlink, Explorer, and Sticky. And you might also see there's a new suite of applications called Ideate Apps. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I just thought I'd give you a little teaser of we are developing some new applications that we're going to be releasing fairly soon. So you guys are very fortunate to be one of the first to see at least the menu bar. So again, that's I mean that I'm giving you that little tease and not giving you a lot of information about it, but that's the way I am. I'm just a mean person, I guess. So now I'm going to start up Ideate Explorer. So Ideate Explorer, as I said, is a model browser. So what we're doing here is we're looking at, by default, the active view, but maybe I want to look at the entire project. So I sort the entire project by default by category. And I want you to notice that it's showing me I have 35,978 elements in this Revit model. And so every single item or element has a number after it, which will tell me the instances that I have. So in this case, I might want to come down to, for instance, my curtain wall panels. I have 786 of those. Notice it's classified by family and type. I have operable panels, sliding panels, system panels, and again, I can expand and I can see, oh, under operable panels, I have clear glazing. I have 44 of those, and I have, you know, of the frit glazing, 8 of those. And again, as I continue to expand, I can get down to the actual instance. And so I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see there it says the operable instance. Anytime I want to identify or go to a particular element in the model, I simply double-click, and Ideate Explorer will automatically zoom into that particular view. To select the item, I simply select the check mark, and now it's in my selection set. And you can see there it says 1 selected. Also down on the Revit menu, 1 is selected. Now instead of selecting the 1 item, maybe I wanted to select all of the clear glazing operable awnings. So now I move 1 level up, and now I have 44 selected. Now it doesn't really matter in this case, you know, I'm showing all of the information. I don't have to be in this view, or the elements do not have to be in this view that I'm working in. So I know that I'm grabbing all 44 wherever they are within the project. Now, Ideate Explorer is what we call non-modal or modeless. Basically, that means that once I select something or highlight something, I can use any appropriate Revit command. So I can come over here to the Properties palette in Revit, and I can say, you know what, I would like to switch this to a sliding panel instead. So immediately all 44 of the curtain wall panels have now been reclassified from the clear panel to this sliding. Now there were already 4 to begin with, so now we have 48. You see if I expand down, here are all of the ones I just moved over, and then there were 4 that were already existing that from in the model. So it's a great way for me to, again, identify something very quickly and then switch its family and type. Now, I'm showing you this based on, again, sorting by category, but we can also sort by level, phase, room, space. You know, this is something that the project browser just can't do. I mean, the project browser is basically showing you things sort of by default, by category. So if I come over here by level, I'm now reorganized all the elements of the model based on level. Sometimes that, you know, there is an unassigned level, which you'll see quite a few elements that, you know, it's not assigned to a specific level, but most of the model elements themselves are, like first floor, bearing, level 11. And if I expand the top of footing, I see I've got levels, I've got doors, and I'm sort of thinking, like, why is there a door assigned to the top of footing level? That may be incorrect. So what I'm going to do is highlight that there for me. And if I want to see this, a nice little feature that was introduced with Autodesk in 2016 was the ability to build a selection box around any item that I select. So now I can say, oh, okay, this is the door. Let's just look at that, zoom up on it, and I'm like, oh, obviously this was incorrect. It should not be at the top of footing level. This was a mistake, so let's fix that, and it should be on the first floor instead, and we'll apply that. So it allows me to then reclassify that, and now, again, the door is on the first floor level. Now, if I want to go back to the overall view of all the items, I would just come over here to the Properties palette and just say, you know, turn off that section box in that view, and I can go ahead and fit the view, and I see all of that information again. So I've got the model for me. And by the way, you know, the Ideate Explorer dialog does take some space depending on how much you expand it, but we do have this nice little feature called Auto Hide that allows you to reduce it to the size of an icon, and then simply floating over it, it pops back up. But for the demonstration purposes, I tend to like to have that open because I'm kind of interacting with the Ideate Explorer window quite a bit. So you'll notice that I have Explore here. Everything I've done is, you know, when I switch over here to the, let's say, the category, all of the items are based on this Explore tab. Well, what is this Navigate tab? Navigate allows you to navigate to individual legends, schedules, sheets, or views. Now, you're probably familiar with the project browser allows you to assign a browser organization, but only to sheets and views. Right now, if you look over here what I have on the project browser, my schedules are all just sort of lumped together alphabetically. There's no way for me to really classify them. But now with Ideate Explorer, I have the ability to look at schedules. I have key schedules, material takeoff schedules, I have quantities. They're organized by doors, floors, rooms, and I can go to just my room schedules and again double click and go right to that room schedule. So it's a really nice way for me to categorize and understand that information. Now if I go back to the views, I have views that are classified by being on a sheet or not on a sheet. Let's look at those views on a sheet. Like I've got some floor plans here, some enlarged toilet plans. I'm going to double click. There's my enlarged toilet plan. Well, what if I want to find out the sheet that's on as well? Well, I can right click and say open up the sheet. So Ideate Explorer gives me a great way to quickly navigate to views, sheets, schedules, as well as, you know, the actual elements themselves. So you see over here, you know, now I'm switching back to the Explore tab. All right, speaking of going and switching to the individual elements, what I might want to do is look at the items in a little bit more detail here. So let's go back to that first floor. Oh, I guess maybe I didn't even actually activate it. Let's go first floor equipment and furniture plan. So we will open up that view. Now I'll go back to Explore. And what I'd like to do is show you that, okay, we're looking at the entire project and we've got 319 walls. If I come over here to look at just the walls in this view, which is first floor equipment and furniture plan, now I've gone down to 215. Maybe I'd like to further refine that search by using filtering and search tools. So the filter, what I'm going to do here is bring up the Revit filter. This is the standard filtering dialog that I have in Revit. And I'm going to create a rule for interior walls. So I'll call it wall interior. And we'll go ahead and we want that to work on the wall category, right? And we want to be filter where the function, so over here, function is equal to interior. So again, this should be very familiar to you. It's a standard. You can use any Revit filter you've already created. So once I create it, now I want to assign it. I want to assign that wall interior. So immediately it's gone down to look at just the 104 interior walls. If I select on that, it will highlight in that view, and I can actually zoom up, and you see now in that kind of nice, beautiful purple color, I've highlighted all the interior walls, right? And again, I can always clear the selection by saying that I don't want to select any of those items. But maybe I wanted to get a further refinement in my search. Not only did I want interior walls, but I wanted walls with the word reception in them. So I can now type in my search field, reception, hit the little binoculars, and now I'm down to 13 walls. And that's what I was really looking for, was the reception desk. So now I can highlight that interior reception desk, and now I've got that information in that view. So it's a great way for, again, me to really understand these items and to quickly find, search, and filter for things. So I'm going to clear that search, and I'm going to go back to filter. Now, I told you you can build any filter in Ideate Explorer that you'd like for use from Revit. We actually ship with several filters that are pre-built. So we have the annotation filter, the model filter, but then there's this other one that I want to have you pay close attention to called Ideate Audit. When you click on Audit, it's going to look at things that are, let's say in the entire project, these are particular things like CAD imports, levels, lines that can sometimes get out of hand if you're not cautious about it. Like, let's actually look at lines. We have 17,592 lines in this project, which is okay. We have model lines that are room separation lines, which are pretty good. Sometimes I'll see clients or customers have model lines that are, for instance, ceiling grids. Well, that's not very good, because the ceiling grid could plot in or display in an elevation view, in a section view. You really want to be using detail lines for that. So let's expand detail lines. And I see I've got a lot of detail lines here with all different kinds of names. So for instance, I've got, these are probably from AutoCAD, maybe when I exploded it or something like that. So I've got 66 lines that are on this line style called 47, and line 48, line 49, 51, line 0. So I'm just highlighting some of these. You see down below I have 481 items selected. They can be in multiple views. Obviously, it doesn't matter where I'm at in the project. Now I'm just going to come over here and say, all of those really should have been on the A detail fine line style. So now I've reclassified those. A detail fine has 1,167. So again, it's a great way for me to reclassify those items. Same or similar is if I come over here to text notes, right? And if I expand on the amount of text notes I have, I see that I've got, probably when I copied from multiple projects, I had this 3/16 aerial. You see it got copied around and incremented, aerial 2, aerial 3. Well, I want to take those two, and let's just say that I want to change that just to the 3/16 aerial. So now I can consolidate those. And I'd want to maybe use the purge unused items in Revit to get rid of those, because now I don't have any instances on those particular text styles. Okay, now not only does Ideate Explorer allow you to understand things based on the the family and type, but we can actually drill down into any parameter information. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just say I select on dimensions. I've got 1,321. Well, I could go look at all these dimensions that I have here. I've got linear, text overrides, DG angular dimensions. But what I really want to do is find something that says, show me the text dimensions that are overridden. So I can bring up Ideate Query, and I can say, are there any in my entire project that have a value override set to them? Well, in fact, there are 1,011 that are blank. There are 309 where the value override is not applicable. But yeah, there's one. So how in the world would you find that one text dimension in your entire project that's been overridden without a tool like Ideate Explorer and Ideate Query? So now I'm going to select that, right? It brings it into my list. I'm going to double click to go to that particular view, and it brings up that, there it is. And if I click on it and it says, yep, sure enough, the actual value was 3 foot 4 inches. It was replaced with 48-inch max, and I'm going to now use the actual value. Another great way to use this, if I switch back to the filter, I'll say no filters, and I'm going to say the entire project again. We'll clear the selection, maybe go down to casework, and you know what, I'm going to show this. It's still usually nice to show in a nice plan view, so we'll go ahead and do that for first floor equipment and furniture plan. Select all items of casework, go again down to Ideate Query, and we'll select, hey, are there any in-place families? Again, that's a value, or a flag that's a parameter. So right now there are 122 loadable families. There are 28 in-place families under the casework category. So now it will show those to me, and I can go into a particular item like this bookshelf. And again, if I'm seeing this bookshelf a lot, right, in all these areas, that probably is not a very good use of an in-place family, because that can really bloat the file. It can increase the file size and performance, or decrease the performance, I should say. So if you have a lot of these, it's a quick way to understand where in-place families have been used, and really you might want to use a loadable family instead. Okay, so let's clear that selection here. Let's do one last thing with Ideate Explorer. We're going to look at our entire project. We're going to go to our CAD imports, and this is something that's really important. With the project browser, there's no way to see over here under the project browser CAD imports. There's just not a category. There's a Revit links, but there's not a CAD import. So now I can expand this, and I can look at AutoCAD or MicroStation files that have been imported either into the view specific items or into the overall project. And as I expand on this, let's say a door detail here. Let's say door details. I've got a couple instances. You know, the first one I double click, it goes to the door detail AutoCAD insert. That's great. The second one though, I'm like, that seems kind of weird. Why do I have two instances of this? Well, when I double click, Ideate Explorer tells me, hey, that element was hidden. So a lot of times what happens is you import a CAD file, you trace over it, you say right click, hide in view, and then you forget about it. Well, how do you go back and find those things? So this is a great way. It's going to turn on reveal hidden elements in Revit, and I can see the view here, and I'm like, okay, this is a site plan view. Someone obviously, imported this in by mistake. So let's go ahead and click on that. I can use Ideate Delete, which allows me then to say, do you really want to delete this CAD import? And I say, yes, I do. So it's nice. It gives me the confirmation of that. So if I had multiple items, for instance, if I selected ceilings and, I don't know, detail tags or something, and hit delete, you notice that it's going to tell me I've got 3 ceiling tags and 3 detail items that are going to be deleted. Do you want to delete that or not? I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to delete that. So again, let's go ahead and select none here. I'll look at the entire project, and that is, again, a great way for me to use Ideate Explorer. So let's switch back to my main presentation here. So we introduced Navigate. That was what I kind of highlighted there, allowing you to go to individual views, sheets, schedules, and it allows you to understand how these schedules are sort of classified much easier than you can with the out-of-the-box Revit project browser. And then our last major release, we also introduced Query. I just showed you the tip of the iceberg there, allowing you to query for information in the Revit model. But you can use it to find unused annotations. You can use it to find design options, in-place usage, which is what you saw me do as an example, but also revision information, basically any parameter data that you have, which is really nice. So Ideate Explorer, as I mentioned, most of our customers are on the last 3 releases, Revit 2015, 2016, and 2017. However, we do have versions going back to 2012. One thing that's really unique about Ideate software solutions in general is that when we introduce a new version or new feature, for instance, last October we introduced Navigate and Query, we actually sort of backdate that, so we make it available to Revit 2015. in addition to 2016 and 2017. So right now, when you see these 3 releases, they are all identical in their feature set. Now, as we go further back to Revit 2014 to 2013 and 2012, there are things that were not in the Revit API. That's the application programming interface that we use. So they weren't available for us, and so we couldn't have those particular features. So the further back you go, the features might vary a bit, but usually the last 3 releases are pretty much identical. So all of these are available for download on our website.